One of the biggest things I say is you don't know what you don't know. So
Good advice.
asking questions. Advocacy is really the awareness and being a voice for those who don't have a voice. So a lot of times we're hesitant to ask questions, whether it be the schools, the teachers, the principals, or outside agencies. If there's anything that you need help with, I think opening the door for dialogue is the most important thing to getting answers or resources or services that's needed.
Well, I'm not afraid to ask the following question. You mentioned mentorship is very important to you in our brief conversation that we had yesterday. Could you elaborate on that?
I think mentorship is the reason why I'm able to do the things that I am today. There are several people who were in my position in the community who have mentored me and kind of showed me the ropes as far as being able to connect with the community and kind of get things done in all aspects, whether it's from elementary school through my high school career, especially through college career, even now professionally, the internship. I can name several individuals who have been tremendous in my growth as a man and professionally as a social worker and program leader.
Well stated. Now, I usually don't read from a page, but you wrote something that is so profound that I'm going to read it to the audience. I'm going to ask you to elaborate. Understanding one's purpose is to share wisdom and knowledge. I think that is wonderful, especially as a motto for the show. Could you elaborate on that, Andre?
One thing, as I got older, I understood that knowing yourself and loving yourself is one of the key things of trying to figure out what your purpose is in life, the things that you're trying to do in achieving your dreams. I find, well, I'll speak for myself. When I was in high school and exploring my next stages of life to college, I just wasn't really sure of the things that I wanted to do with my career, with myself. My focus was largely on sports, but not who I was as a young man, not who I was as a student, really preparing for the next stages. And, the more I explored myself personally, the things how I learned, my emotions, my life skills, these are things that help me to survive in the world today of really being able to deal with the adversities and ups, downs, and obstacles of life. I think that understanding your own abilities to be able to play on your, to make your weaknesses strengths, I think that takes a lot of soul searching in order to be able to achieve that, and it helps to be able to handle situations that comes with life.
Well, I really like what you just said, making your weaknesses strengths, because that's really is what entrepreneurship is all about.
Yeah.
Whether it be entrepreneurship in advocacy, entrepreneurship in private industry, it's taking great problems and turning them into opportunities. And it seems you have a knack for recognizing that and capitalizing that and helping people do so.
Yes. I mean, when you're able to get to the root of the problem, I think that helps, to cut a lot of time, a lot of unnecessary strain or resources when it comes to that. I think that I see with students all the time that asking these questions of preparing, especially for the next stage of life, whether it be college or the workforce, there are a lot of things that aren't discussed. A lot of times, the schools are left with a lot of responsibilities that aren't covered by the communities that it used to be that way, and a lot of kids are unprepared to handle, what the next stages of life comes with.
This is the chapter's Advocacy Alliance now on WGBB 1240 AM, which is the first radio station here on Long Island. If you want to join in, please do it 631-888-8811 or 631-888-8812, or you can watch this on the webcam or go to the website www.am1240wgbb.com. And we're talking to Andre Vanterpool. And Andre, I want to ask you a specific question, because advocacy is a key perspective on how we all do things, especially in your field of work. What's the key component to establish really good advocacy, but also trust and rapport with the people you're advocating for?
I think what I found when it came to advocacy was building a bond and trust with the students or parents or whether the clients that I have, so that there's honesty there. I was fortunate enough to, in my line of work, to be able to do things like home visits, individual counseling, and these expose things that help you to truly address what issues are. So I have, for instance, I have students who, as an educator, you try to encourage them to do homework and things of that nature. And as I visit certain homes, I find that there aren't places, a safe place for a kid to even study or read a book. And you look past that because you may assume that all homes have that type of environment. But a lot of times we have parents who work really late. Kids are left home to raise maybe their siblings, and they don't have a lot of time. So I have a lot of students who are trying to do their schoolwork, their homework during school.
And probably single parent families that are working 1, 2, 3 jobs that they have to, especially in Long Island, it's so hard to make ends meet.
Yeah, so I work with the parents and I build that rapport, and I'm able to go to the parent-teacher meetings that they aren't able to attend, or the CSC meetings in that nature, and I'll stay and come to their home 9, 10 o'clock at night just to fill them in and be the bridge between the schools and the parent. And these are things that you don't always think about the kids. There's so many things now on the computers now as far as homework, and I have many students who don't have a computer, who don't have access. Right. So we try to provide those things at the community center.
And Long Island, the demographics of Long Island geographically, each town sometimes it's its own island, and some have the resources and some don't. And I know, and then so that's a big challenge you just brought up. Some kids don't have computers.
Yeah, when I'm originally from Westbury.
Okay.
So coming from Westbury to Manhasset,
big difference.
We don't. There's a lot of things that are talked about, whether it's socially, economically. I always tell a funny story. There are a lot of things when I moved that were just shocking, as far as the wealth, as far as the educational demands of school. When I moved from Westbury to Manhasset, so when I was 7, I moved to Manhasset, and one of my friends that I met, he invited me to his birthday party.
Okay.
And his first birthday party was at Madison Square Garden. In the skybox.
And 16,000 of his great friends.
And it's like, unlimited pizza and candy, but these things are surreal to
right.
To move from certain neighborhoods. So going to homes where there are spiral staircases and chandeliers and full-length swimming pools and like socially it's very different.
Right.
Then when you go to the school system, it's a higher demand because there's great levels of expectation. Manhasset is a great education institution, and there all type of kids are going to great schools. But when you go there from a different community,
right.
you're kind of behind the 8 ball as far as what's expected of you. So you're playing catch up from the beginning, from as soon as you step in.
Right. And that's an interesting point because I bounced around as a kid too. I went from Port Jefferson in high school to Amityville. And when I went to Amityville, that was the greatest thing in my whole life. That was a key moment in my life because it really set the tone of what I do professionally and personally, because that diversity is so important. I think some of the kids, not just in Long Island, miss that diversity.
Absolutely.
How important is diversity for young people at this point?
It sets a more realistic approach of how life really truly is. I say that where my culture shock was when I attended college at Stony Brook University, and I was fortunate because I played basketball, so I traveled some, locally throughout the United States. But when I went to college, is where I had teammates who were from Germany, who just came from Germany for that semester, like their first time in America.
Right.
Teammates from South Africa and Nigeria and different places where they're here for the first time. That's a different conversation when you're speaking to an 18, 19-year-old who came to America for the first time.
Right.
Different as, the generation whose parents may have been from a separate country and they were born here and raised here. It's very different because in the real world, these are things. In some communities, such as Westbury and other places like Indianville, there may be a specific minority group, but when you go off to colleges, it's just how you talk, how you conduct yourself professionally as a student.
Right.
There are things that change. You know, being a student at a university, I talk to my students all the time about it, is that the average class size is about 20 to 25 students.
Right.
I remember going to Stony Brook and having class in the lecture hall with 110 students.
Yeah, it was like a mini,
feeling like
it wasn't Madison Square Garden, but it was a step below.
And, you know, and it's like, you know, how do you become a student in that environment? Because I found later in my collegiate career that I'm a better listener than a note taker.
Right.
So I found that when I'm trying to take notes as the professor is speaking, I'm kind of lost. I'm kind of just trying to make sure I get all of the notes. And it kind of looks like hieroglyphics at the end of the class because I didn't retain it. I was too busy trying to copy it. But
Right.
I'm an auditory learner.
Right.
I'm very visual. So I learned that my end of my undergraduate career going into my graduate career. But these are questions that I didn't even know. I didn't know that I could ask my professor for the notes or ask my peers and my classmates for notes and tell my professor that this is the type of learner that I am. I'm not in your classes being lazy.
Right.
By sitting there, I'm much better at listening and retaining the information and reviewing it later. I think that when you discover, like you were saying, knowing yourself, so when you discover how you learn, what type of student you are at a young age, it prepares you for the next stages of life when you're put in those situations where you're in a class of 110 students in a lecture hall, or even asking the question when you're looking for college, what type of class size, what is the teacher to student ratio, what type of assistance. We have students who are hesitant to ask for help. So when you have the library or the tutors or the student activity center, they're not utilizing these resources because they're afraid to say that they don't know.
Right.
And we find kids always in that situation. So that's why I was talking about building the rapport, because once they feel safe, once they feel that they can share, then you can actually address where they truly are and not where they claim to be, because you're doing more of an assessment than an assumption on what they can do and where they truly are. Because many times our pride or maybe age or grade level feels that they should know something at that particular point in their life.
Well said. This is the Chapters Rap Advocacy Alliance here on Sunday morning, and we're on WGBB 1240 AM, the first radio station in Long Island. If you're listening and want to join in, please do it 631-888-8811 or 631-888-8812, or you can go on the website www.am1240wgbb.com. We're talking to Andre Vanterpool and Dr. Morfopoulos. How did you guys meet? I mean, how did this connection start?
Well, Greg Shiner is not shy either.
Okay.
And we were at a meeting and we walked right up to Andre, and between the two of us, we had two non-shy people walking up to Andre, and what I was particularly impressed with my conversation with Andre was his discussion of Head Start. I think it's critically important. I realize that high school is important, that we're talking about right now.
Right.
But in my opinion, the disadvantages stem all the ways back to the early years, the years from 2 to 5. And we got into a very extensive conversation over the phone recently, Andre and I, about the importance of Head Start. Andre, could you elaborate on that conversation?
Yes, I mean, the Head Start program, speaking for the Manhasset-Great and E.O.C, has been around for 50 years, probably one of the first Head Start programs on Long Island. We see that during those stages, it's very critical for parents because, it's a transitional stage. These are times where kids are preparing to actually go to school once they leave the Head Start. We find that many parents don't have the support system that we think they do as far as raising their kids, and that they really need the support to help guide them in the right direction when it comes to those kids. You know, learning at that age, behavior, so many things are important and pivotal to preparing for the classroom setting, being social with other students and children, trusting teachers and getting familiar. It's a very vital age in preparing for life. Parents really need help that we find all the time, all different types of situations.
I myself saw that in my first foray into education, which was at the Brentwood School District as a tutor, and many of the students there were rough and tumble and were failing classes. And it was the year the New York Giants, you probably remember, Steve, were going undefeated, the football team.
Yes.
And I said to those people, those young men and women, I said, do you know who the New York Giants are now? Yeah. I said, well, what would happen if the New York Giants had no plays, no helmets, and no coaches?
You beat the New York Jets.
Hey, I'm a Jet fan, that hurts.
So I had to say that.
But they all said the same thing. They said they'd lose. I said,
Right.
well, you're the New York Giants without any helmets, plays, or coaches. Are you
Right.
going to get in the game and have a tutor and have a guide, a mentor? And they went from F to C to B
Wow.
to A students. So what Andre is doing is a tremendous asset and service for the community.
It's amazing the work that you're doing, Andre, because earlier you brought up CSC meetings, and I'm a school psychologist. I know all about the whole CSC meeting thing.
Yeah.
Talk about what your advocacy is like in a CSC meeting when maybe parents or people around don't know what's going on.
In my experience, even going through that, I speak on my own personal experience.
Sure.
My mom was a single parent, so
Okay.
my mom was on, before she passed, she was on dialysis for over 22 years.
Wow.
So there were many days where she could not physically make it, you know, to a meeting,
Wow.
you know.
Right.
So my mom just wanted what's best, and she wasn't fortunate to go to college. So when it came to school and providing resources for me, everything sounds good because she just wants to help her son.
Right.
So there were situations where that's not what I needed, though, to where I personally spoke to teachers in my school to say that class wasn't for me.
Right.
That alternative school I wouldn't excel in that type of environment. This is something that I would need, and finding the best to challenge it. So where it's more what situations, what resources work best, and less of an opinion. So it was less about my mom felt that you should provide this for my son, as opposed to, well, these are the assessments and spending time with your son, and we see from his test scores with this, that this environment will work best. So sometimes kids are misdiagnosed, they're put in the wrong classes, and this is because there's not much feedback, or there's a gap between the parent and the school system. So when we're able to bridge that, when the parent understands all the vernacular that comes in those type of meetings, all the abbreviations that I had trouble keeping up with all the time, you know, it's kind of hard to expect a parent to truly know what's going on, because we know as professionals and educators that the systems change all the time.
Right.
Funding for this program is lost, so we have to put kids in this class.
Right.
It's always something every school year, so there's always an adjustment.
It's a critical moment because it really is either a child or a student is classified or not. And if they're not classified, then they don't get those supportive services.
Yeah,
It's
and
critical
it's
time.
unfortunate, and and if you don't qualify, then you have to seek outside
Right.
resources. And if you're not fortunate to have a place like the Manhasset-Great E.O.C,
Right.
then you're left to fend for yourself, and that's what we're finding. So a platform such as this is excellent to be able to let people know that there is help out there.
Well, this is a really good platform, the Chapters Rap Advocacy Alliance on WGBB 1240 AM. If you want to join in, please do it 631-888-8811 or 631-888-8812. Now, you brought up, and Dr. Morfopoulos brought up, dialysis. And so when people aren't familiar with how intense that is, I don't know firsthand, but knowing my good friend here, it is grueling, but you find a way to benefit what you're doing and to maintain your passion.
Well, I'm sure the audience can hear me coughing in the background. I'm physically worn down, but mentally not beaten, and I am undaunted. I am someone who believes in what I'm doing, and I often joke that I have the energy of only 2 people now instead of 10. It's not about feeling sorry for yourself. It's about, there are people who feel sorry for themselves in dialysis, and they suffer greatly because of it. They stick needles in your arm, and it's uncomfortable, but as many people around this table know, I will call you and make myself very busy during dialysis. I've called everyone around this table.
You have.
And I'm a captive audience when you call me,
Yes.
so it's all what you make of it.
That's what it is. You're a okay, I got it now. So now, explain the rigors of that, because you go frequently each week, and how long do you spend there?
I spend 4 hours in treatment there. That's not counting going to and from and the time it takes to hook me up and take me off.
Wow.
Sometimes my blood pressure goes all over the place while it's happening. If all goes well, they're just draining fluids and taking them in and out and cleansing my fluids, which is not pleasant, but that's a good day. A bad day is when the dialysis is affecting my blood pressure and my heartbeat, and then it gets exciting and I cramp.
Right.
I attribute that my experience, I mean, Andre was talking about his experience as a basketball player. I was a wrestler in high school, and it's kind of like being in the 3rd period of a wrestling match for 4 hours.
Oh, that's rough. I was a wrestler too, and the first minute was rough. but how often do you go each week?
3 times a week.
3 times a week, roughly 4 hours time.
Yes.
That's intense. So you've had to develop, your passion comes through, but you have to develop a way that you can maintain your work, because that's 12 hours of the week.